Welcome, everyone, to the 2024 Protect Us Kids inaugural virtual conference, Safe Futures. We are thrilled to wrap up day one of the conference. It has been amazing, and just so enriching the knowledge that has been shared today. But most importantly, we are even more thankful and excited to have an amazing author, children's book author in cybersecurity, Zinet Kemal. And Zinet is a dynamic cybersecurity advocate. She's an immigrant from Ethiopia and a mother of four who transitioned from a legal career to become a multi-award-winning leader in cybersecurity. She is a TEDx speaker, LinkedIn learning instructor, and the author of three award-winning children's books that inspire young minds to embrace cybersecurity. Zinet holds an MS degree in cybersecurity from Georgia Tech University, a BS in computer science, and an LLB in law. She currently serves as a cloud security engineer for a Fortune 500 company, and her books, including Proud in Her Hijab, Oh No, Hacked Again, and the international Amazon #1 bestseller, See Yourself in Cybersecurity, empower children to explore online safety and envision themselves as future cyber heroes. She is also the co-author of Securing Our Future with Black Women in Cyber Collective and has been recognized with numerous accolades, including the 2024 Most Inspiring Women in Cyber, the 2023 Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal 40 Under 40, and the CS Hub Top 25 Cybersecurity Leaders for 2024. Her dedication to inspiring the next generation of cyber professionals continues to make a significant impact in the field. And all of you, to include us at Protect Us Kids today, have the fortunate opportunity to be able to hear her spread her knowledge and her expertise in cyber. So I will pass it off to you, Zinet, to talk about empowering and protecting children online.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it, and the honor is mine to be here. And let me share my screen just real quick. And let me know if you can see my screen before I start my. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for having me to talk about such an important topic at SAFE. The first, very fortunate to be here at SAFE Futures Global Virtual Conference, and all the attendees for being here when you can be anywhere else, recorded or whatever you're seeing this content. And today I'll be speaking about the topic of empowering and protecting children online. But before I do, I know you've seen the introduction. My name is Zinet Kemal, and I am a wife, a mom of four, a career changer, and a multi-award-winning cybersecurity advocate currently working as a cloud security engineer at a Fortune 500 organization. I'm also 4 times published award-winning children's book author, including books on children's online safety and cyber careers titled Oh No, Hacked Again, and See Yourself in Cybersecurity. A TEDx speaker on the topic, and also a LinkedIn learning instructor, coming out 2 courses. As a mother, I'm particularly passionate about, educating and empowering children about online safety and cybersecurity for children. I'd like to start by telling you a quick story. Like I said, I'm a mom of 4 young kids between the ages of 14 and 4 years old, 4 and a half. And in the midst of the pandemic, I witnessed 2 of my kids on different occasions got their online gaming accounts hacked, leaving them devastated. And I'm not exaggerating, because these games are life for these kids. It was that time where everyone was, staying home, learning and working from home. And these online gaming were the place for my kids, or kids in most cases elsewhere, were the source of entertainment / education, as well as an avenue for socializing, as you know, through the chats and audio calls while gaming, because the kids do that while gaming. They also talk to their peers on different platforms. So they would have their school friends and sometimes cousins in those online games. So these incidents I mentioned first began with my oldest son. So one day he came to the dinner table, very sad and not talking, barely eating, and he wouldn't even tell us what happened until his 2 little sisters finally said, he got hacked and lost control of his gaming account. And before he could speak, he started to cry and looked so helpless. And he was 10 at the time. He then goes to tell us, he doesn't even know what happened, but I want to, reset this password of mine. And next thing I know, I couldn't. Someone from the VIP gaming server said he now owns my account. He said he begged him to give the account back, but he said, the person just laughed at me and in the chat, and he changed the avatar. And he was like, I love my avatar and my favorite profile name. Now it's all gone. And he continued to cry. And, his younger two sisters, after listening to the story in horror while staring at him, both say it's so mean. Then we ended up, as parents, purchasing the digital currency he needed to replace the lost one for the new account. But, he was still sad because even if the currency is replaced, he said that there are things that he couldn't replace, some things that are rare and valuables and limited time items that went off sale, that things just don't get replaced just because you spend money. Then it happened again, this time with my daughter. Similar experience and devastation that comes along with losing control of a gaming account, but this time because she trusted someone called a friend online, because you know how kids are, they called everybody a friend. But these cases, are not isolated cases. Did you know that 12 million children in the United States alone are exposed to cyber risks? And from 2015 to 2020, 6 million children experienced cyber threats. And to make matters worse, less than half of K-12 students in our public education, what have you, in K-12, receive, at least in the US, less than half of K-12 students in the US receive cyber-related education. As per Digital Intelligence Institute, which sort of measures child online safety around the world through Child Online Safety Index, in 30 countries, 60% of 8 to 12-year-olds have experienced at least one cyber risk, meaning could be cyberbullying, gaming disorder, or online sexual behavior, or reputational risks such as fake news and others. This incidents and potential online predator attempt with my son on another occasion, which I kind of mentioned in the book as a story, made me realize that we as parents are so quick and comfortable to get the kids the devices, the tablets and computers, and connect them to the internet so quickly and easily, but we fail to invest the time and effort in educating them on how to navigate the internet world safely. And when it comes to online safety, we often assume, our kids are safe as long as they're at home and behind closed doors, we're in the same roof, what could go wrong, right? As a mom, I thought, I was doing everything right to protect my kids. But witnessing the harsh reality that hit home with my kids and the countless similar stories, especially at that time during lockdown, COVID, afterwards, like the past 3-4 years, I've seen stories shared on various parenting social media groups, mom groups on Facebook. We are failing children in this digital world, and a focus isn't given as much as we would give in the privacy and cybersecurity world as we would for adults. That's my realization as a cybersecurity practitioner and as a mom. And as parents and guardians, we resort to control screen time restrictions or limiting internet access in order to protect our kids online. And I know I've been guilty of this because I've grounded my kids or, did screen time, but is that sustainable is the question. And the more time children spend online connected to the internet, we know that they are vulnerable. According to the Center for Parenting Education, kids and teens between the ages of 8 to 18 spend about 44.5 hours each week in front of a digital screen. And another source from the National Cybersecurity Alliance also confirms this as well. Kids aged between that age group, which is 8 to 18, spend 7 hours and 38 minutes per day online. So if a child sleeps 8 hours per night, let's hope they do, especially with our teens, that means that, one half of the time that the child is awake is spent online. In another research conducted by Pew Research Center just 2-3 years ago, 2020, 6 in 10 say that their child began engaging with a smartphone before the age of 5. And we see that reality now. And after those incidents at home, I thought, well, if this is happening with my kids, it's likely happening to other families, and that's a problem, and I need to do something about it. And that's when, in the midst of the pandemic, I decided to write children's book to educate kids about online safety and basic cybersecurity hygiene, hence the birth of Oh No, Hacked Again. But now let's look at some of the risks to children's online safety. The first one is children's sharing personal information online, or what we call oversharing, has serious negative consequences. Children may not understand the risks that they expose themselves to when they trust others and share their location, school names, home addresses, or even passwords. One of my daughters, driven by pure trust, shared her password to an online gaming friend, quote unquote, because not everybody's your friend online, who promised to add more digital currency to her, gaming account. Little did she know that this seemingly harmless request from a friend was a deceitful plan to seize control of her entire gaming account. Now, think about this. You may say, well, this is gaming. Like, what could go wrong, right? If this can happen in a gaming, what could occur if that password were to unlock something more significant? We have to ask ourselves, like, do children truly understand the true nature of individuals they encounter online? And especially with the advancement of new technology, evolution of artificial intelligence and Gen AI, and now, more accessible use of chatbots and ChatGPT, children feeding such personal information to AI exposes kids to risks ranging from privacy and safety issues. We need to educate and remind children that, anything shared on the internet is there to stay forever. And speaking of oversharing, another topic I would like to bring is, have you ever stopped to think about the extent to which children's lives are exposed online? Did you know that, by the time a kid to age 13, their pictures have been shared online, a shocking 1,300 times by the time they reach the age 13. What's truly alarming is that a significant portion of this online trail is not as a result of children's own social media usage. No. We would think that it's because they're oversharing. Rather, it's the consequence of what we adults, parents, and guardians have shared about them, and it's called sharenting, and it's a real thing. So sharenting is the act of oversharing personal information about our children online, often, without fully comprehending the potential repercussions. And yet again, I am guilty of this. Pretty much most of us are, because we would like to share milestones and stuff for our kids without realizing the consequences of it. And a new study found that 68% of American parents share photos of their kids online. This is just the data from the US. And think about it, this is their faces, their cherished memories, all scattered across the internet without their control or consent. But it doesn't stop there. An average person in UK, getting outside of the US now, by the time they turn 18, 70,000 pieces of information about them are readily available and shared. So it's a digital footprint that leaves them vulnerable to, you might ask, like, what risks could this have? This is leave them vulnerable to exploitation, manipulation, and a major one is identity theft. As per another research from Carnegie Mellon University, kids under the age of 18 are 51 times more likely to become victims of identity theft than their parents. Identity theft is another risk that it means the illegal use of someone else's personal information to steal money or credit. And by 2030, right now we're in 2024, by 2030, sharenting will be the cause for 2/3 of identity fraud cases affecting children. And that's not too far from now. And if we're not mindful of, the information we share, we have to be mindful. Otherwise we inadvertently became enablers of a future where our, kids, their identities are at risk. Moving along, with children's widespread use of social media and messaging platforms, another prevalent threat haunting our online space is cyberbullying, affecting 9 million children in the US. And cyberbullying, as you know, is the electronic posting of mean-spirited messages about a person, often anonymously, hiding behind a keyboard. The impact of insults, harassments, and rumors online can negatively affect a child's mental and emotional well-being. And according to a study published on Journal of Medical Internet Research, young victims of cyberbullying are twice as likely to attempt suicide and self-harm. And just 2 years ago, a 15-year-old boy with big dreams from Chicago took his own life after a relentless cyberbullying from his school peers. And now, AI is enabling a new wave of cyberbullying, particularly through the misuse of deep fakes and voice cloning, leading to harmful practices such as sextortion among children. If we are aware of the sign of cyberbullying, such as abrupt change in behavior, or if we're seeing aversion to devices or withdrawal from social activities, we will be able to proactively intervene and protect children as parents, educators, or guardians. Online grooming poses another significant danger to children. Predators assume, false identities slowly to earn the trust of children, only to manipulate and exploit them for harmful purposes. And cyber predators are just people, who search online for other people in order to use and control or harm them in some way. I briefly mentioned it earlier, but when my son was 10 years old, he made an online gaming buddy who claimed to be a 13-year-old boy. And they played games online together for quite some time, but this individual began coercing him to private video calls, isolating and threatening to hack his family's IP address. He was telling him like he's his big brother, don't tell about me, like don't share that I am talking to you. But my son, he kept playing with him because he said that, he's telling me this at a later time, why he kept on playing despite being uncomfortable is because there are few kids who like that specific game. So he kept on playing with him. So he tried isolating him and threatening. Finally, what brought him to his family is because he started to threaten. He said, like, if you're not joining a private video call or if you're not sending me a picture of yourself, that he would hack his family's IP address. And he doesn't have any idea what that means, but the idea of like getting hacked his family's IP address and Wi-Fi just scared him. And he didn't comply. So I still remember to this day how my son was terrified of the situation. But it was a wake-up call as a parent, to guide my kids and remind them like to limit interactions to non-friends and family members. Most importantly, emphasizing that, under those avatars and profile pictures, it could be really anyone looking to harm them because you can only see whatever is presented to you on those avatars or your kids. So it's important to be mindful and reminding them. And the rise of phishing and scams targeting children is also a threat, adding another layer of concern. You would think this is a concern only for adults, but here we are. Fraudsters employ deceptive techniques such as fake links in emails or messages to trick children into sharing sensitive information. Sadly, even the online gaming world where kids spend considerable amount of time is not immune to these dangers. 2 years ago, my daughter became a victim of deceptive survey link that falsely promised a free online gaming digital currency. I'm sharing this real life stories because I have 4 kids and they have, different scenarios of these things that happen to them. This disguised phishing link, which appears to be asking to fill a survey, resulted in her account being compromised and loss of her gaming account as a result. This incident is also reminded me to be intentional in educating my kids on the concept of phishing and scams, because you would think that they don't have email addresses. They do have email addresses, but they're not checking it like adults do, or at a larger enterprise level, like, we don't hear that education given to kids. It just made me intentional in educating my kids on the concept of phishing and scams and how scammers, use different techniques or offers, and remind them, to think twice before clicking a link or to a trusted adult, because this reminders that's something that we need as adults, because this is something that we hear even in enterprises, because that one click is going to result in a lot of damages and breaches. So how do we start empowering our children? Because we talked about a lot of the risks, right? And what are some of the things that ways that we can empower our children? And these are some of the tips like we should take as parents and guardians, which I'll go into which in a bit, but open communication that I always prioritize, parental involvement, parental control, some extent, limiting screen time, and avoiding personal information, sharing. But to go a little bit in detail into each. The first one is establishing an open and regular communication with your child about online safety, very critical. It's very important to have an age-appropriate conversation about what a family, because every family is different, and family values and why certain content isn't appropriate for their age, setting expectation on what is secure while browsing online, how to avoid clicking suspicious phishing links that seem to be sent from legitimate sources. This is a big problem because according to 2022 Norton Cyber Safety Insights report, more than 1 in 4 parents said that their children have clicked on suspicious links on their smartphones. Reminding not to share a password, trusting no one, most importantly, make sure that kids know they can always come to a parent if something happens that makes them uncomfortable. This is very big. This is also the main theme of the book that I wrote. The mom character in the book, because she established prior open communication and encouraged the kids to come to the parents without regard to the amount of mistake they have made. You already know if there are, that fear of, I don't want to get in trouble, I better keep it to myself, is the, the main reason why kids to hide things and, to avoid repercussions, which is going to be more dangerous again. Parental involvement. I mean, parents, we got to show interest in what our kids do. As a mom of 4, I absolutely don't have time to sit down and play games with my kids. They have tried so many times. They probably created so many accounts on my behalf, but I never sat down and play. Number one, I don't know what the games, like how to play. The only game I knew is Mario and Luigi. That's like the max. I don't know any of the newer games. I know what they're playing. I just don't know to sit down and play, and I don't have the time. Somebody got to wash those dishes and make dinner. But try checking what apps they use, gaming platforms, as well as any, DMs, direct messaging, and video chat apps they use, because they use that on a side without naming what type of softwares that they're downloading and using. Block and report people that make them uncomfortable. That's something that I've done with that incident that happened, who claimed to be a 13-year-old boy, but making my son uncomfortable because he just want to play the game. He doesn't want to send him a photo or be in a call or something like that, Another simple step we can take as a parent is check the privacy setting for the apps that they use, ensuring that they use their actual age on some of the gaming or social media apps, because kids are very smart and tricky. They are going to try to put a bigger number so that those settings don't apply to them. I caught once my daughter when she was 7, she put her age as 13, and I had to remind her that she's still 7. So to take advantage of the default age appropriate settings, security settings that are there on the apps. Show interest and involve yourself in conversation about what's going on. I try to listen to them, what they talk about from the kitchen or really from afar, have an idea of what games they play. Just showing interest is always good because, and then surprisingly, it makes them trust you and come to you whenever things go wrong. It makes the difference to make them, comfortable to come to you and let you know if something is wrong. The parental control pieces, even though I would prioritize establishing a line of communication open regularly with kids, as a second line of defense, I do believe that it's important to supervise and regularly check kids' use of internet. That's something we try to do at home, especially when they were very little, blocking appropriate sites from the router, enabling content filtering. This is something that you can talk to your internet service providers to avoid those contents that may be inappropriate. I never use any parental control softwares, but there are trusted ones out there recommended by online safety experts such as Bark. It's vital to create that balance between, protecting children's online through the right supervision and ensuring independence, trust, and sometimes, privacy as well. screen time, restricting the amount of time kids spend on the internet. I think this is important for younger kids, because with games, it's easier for them to get lost in the games and lose track of time. One of the messages in the book that I highlighted, especially at that point, because they weren't having a lot of in real life or IRL interaction, is, like, listen to parents or trusted adults for online safety advices, and how important it is to do outdoor activities or indoor activities that don't involve being online. As a parent, you should have some level of control over the amount of time your child have each day, and how much is too much for each child, because your child. My son, he needs to be reminded, whereas my daughters they know how to play for some time and be away from it to move to the next activity. So we also have that data, we looked at earlier in this talk, that kids age between 8 to 18 spend that 7 hours and 38 minutes per day online, and that's a lot of time. Because you don't know who is behind those profiles and avatars. Like I said, it's critical to remind children not to share any personal information about themselves. And when we say personal information, we mean address or their school's address, name of the school, passwords, etc. Because a 12-year-old girl who says that they're a 12-year-old girl could really be an older man looking to harm their children. You never know. So listen, I changed my approach as a parent, especially after those incidents happen. I'm more intentional about starting a conversation or prompting my kids to share about their online experiences. They come and tell me things on their own. I'm not seeing those incidents anymore. It's been a while. They even tell me mistakes that they have noticed or, like choices their friends make. My fourth grader, then a second grader, told me that 2 of her closest friends just gave her their passwords on a sticky note. I know that there are some adults who still do that. Don't do that. Passwords on a sticky note to check something for them on their behalf on their gaming accounts. Her response proved to me that they're going to be okay, and that they have been paying attention. Like, we assume that kids are kids, maybe they don't understand it, but if we teach them in a language that they understand, they do pay attention. And if we're consistent, they take the lessons. So she said, even if I'm your friend, she's telling me that this is how I responded to them. She said that even if I'm your friend and you trust me, don't ever share your password with me. And she shared with them what has happened to her big sister, what could happen, and the risks of sharing a password with others. She not only understood, but she educated her peers, and that's a big win. We are better off educating and empowering them and setting them up for success, because this is going to be a life lesson for them, because they're digital age, like there is no around it. So a call to action for parents, guardians, educators, and policymakers is, here is what you can do to take action to empower children. First, for parents, as a parent and guardians, engaged in open and routine conversation with your children and the children in your life, or the kids in your life, about cyber risks and online safety. Connect with them by sharing examples, children's books, telling stories, and using interactive games that are out there on how to practice good online hygiene. Go and talk to your kids, ask them about what games they have been playing or their favorite games, and why is that specific game is their favorite. Become a part of what interests them to establish that trust, so that they can come to you as a second nature. Then the next step will come naturally. And lead by example. That is a very big thing that I would like to mention, is like, be a good role model with their responsible internet use, to build connection, share knowledge, and contribute meaningfully. And also kindness applies online too. Like, the kids listen with their eyes. That's something very true that I see. They watch what you do more than they listen to you. Of course, there is always peer pressure, but when it comes to home and as a parent and adults, that's something that we need to be mindful of. So practice ourselves as parents, best online and cybersecurity practices yourselves as a parent, so that the kids emulate that best practices and online behavior accordingly, to grow as a responsible digital citizens. Second is educators, champion for a formal K-12 cybersecurity education on children's online safety in schools. I see this every time I do author visits with my books. The kids are very connected with the stories because I'm speaking their language, but at the same time, the teachers are always saying, we need this in schools. How we need this education, like consistently, like invest in child-friendly cybersecurity resources, for schools, for K-12, like we're teaching them technology. Why don't we teach them, and why don't we prioritize keeping them protected online as in the same token? So children's books on the topic and professional development for teachers to equip them with this knowledge. Lastly, policymakers advocate for effective regulation that protect children's online privacy and security. That's a huge thing in the US. There are a lot of disconnected state laws that exist, but there's always a battle in terms of, making it, a national law. It's a huge topic of its own without getting into it. And the last but not least, I have this helpful resources of links, including my TEDx talk included, and some of the speakers in this conference, one of being Farida Shahid is a YouTube channel. I've been sharing her content in a lot of my talks in the past, and I have it included here as a resource. And here are my cybersecurity children's books, Oh No, Hacked Again for ages 6 to 14, and then See Yourself in Cybersecurity for middle and high schoolers to inspire them to see themselves in this exciting field. Connect with me on LinkedIn and check out my website to find my books and TEDx talk and links to my LinkedIn learning course on how to build your brand in cybersecurity. Well, thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all of your attention. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Zinet. It was wonderful. We actually do have one question.
Sure.
Yeah, I can take that. We questions in that was, I think, from parents on if there is any recommendation on apps to use for both security, but also, I mean, you mentioned an important point on how do parents know what accounts the kids have, right? Because as you said, you can open. So I'm just elaborating on the question, but I understand. I think the angle is like they can just go off and open account, but you often need to use an email, which will be theirs or the parents, right? So if you can just provide some guidance there, how do we even go about knowing?
Usually the way I do it is like we used to use like for sort of controlling the time that they use, like just to remotely, like you have to stop at this time. And then at that time, like we can remotely from our phone close it. And this is something that you can talk to like your internet service providers, like as a basic control, parental control functionality. But usually to know what they're actually doing is like just by physically being present with them. Like that's the way I do it personally, but I'm sure that's why I said, like, I don't have any like software, like parental control softwares that I use personally, but I've seen people talk about it. The internet safety experts talk about this is more good. This is actually bad for your privacy because they collect your data, because there are so many softwares out there. For me, what worked is like just by engaging with them, just talking to them, and finding out. I know like what my 9-year-old likes, my 10-year-old likes, and my 14-year-old. He used to like Roblox, but after a certain time, he grew out of it, and now he's into a different game. So like just knowing what they engage into, but I don't like to play this like mouse and cat kind of situation, like to go, because that really erodes kind of trust. So I just like to talk to them, trust them at the same time, but just just engage with them. But I'm sure there will be softwares that are out there who would tell you like this kid spent this amount of time on this specific site. I've just never used them. Yeah.
Great. I think those are the two questions that I saw in the Q&A.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Zinet. For everyone that is listening in, we will be making these recordings available in the next week or so. But I can't thank you enough. I keep saying thank you because I can't thank you enough. You could be doing so much more, spending family time, and you've dedicated some of your time to us. So we are purely thankful. And I'm excited to see future books that will be coming out your way as well. And for all the parents that are looking, as well as the children, that the older children that might be looking, if you want to purchase a book, as a gift, I think these are excellent educational resources and fun resources for children to actually have a hold to. I think it's rather unique in terms of cybersecurity. Zinet, I remember seeing when you first started co-authoring or authoring your books, and I've seen others move forward, but I think you really are a pioneer in this space, especially when it comes to making the book so relatable within the communities. And so with that, we will end our day one session